Well, hey there, folks. Welcome to Behind the Pulpit for December the 1st, 2025. We have crossed the Rubicon into the 12th month of the year, and we're glad you're joining us. Glad you've stuck with us through the whole year. I hear that there's going to be a Christmas episode coming up. Is that true? Are we going to have a live Christmas episode, Tim?
Yes, we are going to have a live. We'll see. Christmas episode.
Still debatable.
Absolutely,
right?
We will be having a Christmas episode.
Could we record it live Christmas morning so you could be opening your presents in front, like people could be calling in and telling us what they're opening?
I am actually going to say no. I think I'd like to be with my family Christmas morning, but okay. I believe the last couple of years we have released the episode on Christmas morning. So,
all right. Well, anyway, it's going to be good. But before we get to Christmas, let's talk a little bit about Thanksgiving. Hopefully you all had lots of good food out there. By the way, if you are watching this, comment. Let us know what you ate for Thanksgiving this year. Does everybody do the turkey? Did you do a ham? Did you do some kind of alternative meat? if you can't eat meat.
Alternative meat.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I should mention that I am alone today. Pastor Dave is going to be out for the next couple weeks. He's doing some studying. Or something like that, but we do have Reese's Dave right here. He's going to be joining us. Maybe should I come back to him in a second? All right. Oh, I think we're out of focus. Oh. Here we are. Oh no, he's gone. Oh, we're falling apart already. Should I move past this? Okay. Anyway, Reese's Dave. He's over here. We'll come back to him in just a second. All right. So let's go around the horn. How was your Thanksgiving? What did you guys? What'd you guys eat? Was there any stories from your Thanksgiving meal? There he is. Right, Dave. He's speechless as usual. So how was your Thanksgiving meals?
Mine was good. I had a salmon and potatoes and corn.
Salmon?
Yes.
Not turkey, but salmon.
Yeah, we went out to my grandparents in Pennsylvania, Willow Valley. So had a fun menu, but it was good.
Are they anti-turkey, or they just decided to go with the fish?
There were multiple options, and the salmon caught my eye stronger than the turkey.
Oh, there you go. Salmon brings heart health. All those omega-3 fatty acids.
I've been digging the salmon recently. No,
there you go. Salmon is my favorite fish. I will admit to that. Tim, what about you? What did you eat for Thanksgiving?
So we did the traditional turkey. My mom and I
Did you stuff it?
We did.
Okay.
With my family recipe stuffing that my grandmother keeps guarded, and it was good. My mom and I did the turkey together. We did receive a challenge in our comment section from one of our fans.
Oh, what was the challenge? Maybe I saw this one.
So John Bucksbaum, he told us all that there's no way that we could.
John may be our number one fan, so we need to take this seriously.
I think he is. He told us that there's no possible way that we'd have a juicier turkey than him in the deep fryer. I'll tell you what, John, we did not deep fry the turkey at the Utkis household, but we did bake it, and it was succulent. It was good. However, I went over to my in-laws that night, and they did this huge they brined it, they did all this stuff, and they deep fried it, and I had a little piece of it, and it was delicious. So I think there's a world where we both can have good turkeys, John. But
right.
I'm glad.
We'll call it not a turkey trot, but a turkey truce right here truce. Until next year. What do you have turkey for Christmas as well?
I am a huge advocate that we should celebrate the birth of our Savior with prime rib.
Prime rib. Wow. All right. Well, make sure you bring some for us to enjoy on the first episode post Christmas.
Some French dips.
Behind the Pulpit. That's right. There you go. All right. Well, before we get on to the in the news segment, since the House of David is over, I thought one other piece of Thanksgiving news is that we could debrief the first volume of Stranger Things. Did you get to
yes, but I think
that?
Considering it's only 5 days old, I think we need to do it in a way that does not allow spoilers.
Okay, well, I wasn't gonna spoil it.
Yes,
but let's just talk about just if you had to rate it, what did you think? How did it compare to the other seasons?
I thought it was cool. I understand that these set of 4 episodes are really just kind of setting the table for the rest of it. The biggest complaint I'm seeing with people is that the characters are old. And I'm like, yes, but what do you want them to do? I think if we're just able to look past the fact that they are older than they probably should be, I think it's fine. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought some of the twists were really good. I enjoyed the way that they recapped what was happening in their world during the first episode. I thought the plot line is interesting, and it was a fun watch. I enjoyed it. What about you?
I enjoyed it as well. I'm actually now going back and watching the other seasons to pick up on what I missed, because there was all these different references to the previous seasons. I think I can say that. By the way, regarding the age, I mean, this was sort of the same thing with the Harry Potter movies. I mean, they started around the same age. They were like 11 or 12, and the actors were probably in their late or early 20s when they did the last one.
I think the same people who are complaining that they're too old would be the same people that were complaining that the show is bad if they rushed it and made sure that they were being filmed the same age. So you just can't please people.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. I've seen a lot of different theories out there about how the show is going to end. I will miss my 80s references. Brought back memories.
Yes.
From that decade.
So we are so excited to have our City Relief packing party on December the 20th right here at Millington Baptist Church. This event will run from 9 to 11 in the morning with breakfast starting at 8:30. We are so excited to say that we are going to get to pack over 1,700 hygiene kits. That's over 1,100 more than we got to pack last year. Praise God for what we're going to be able to do for City Relief. You're not going to miss being a part of this event. Please come on out on December the 20th from 9 to 11, 8:30 if you want breakfast, and join us as we as a church come together to do amazing outreach for those in need.
All right, well, that was Stranger Things. Go check it out. Next thing up, let's talk about what's going on in the news. All right, so we're in the news. Tim, do you guys have a news story you guys want to talk about? I was trying to pick one out before. There was a couple that caught my eye, but they're a little bit older now.
How old is this Russia-Ukraine thing? We talked about that last week, didn't we?
I think we did talk the Russia-Ukraine thing. I haven't seen a resolution other than the fact that they are...
how much can we talk about our friend in the Supreme Court? Is that something we can discuss?
Well, I mean, it's public. I think we can talk about that. So that is newsworthy. So if you view behind the pulpit but don't know much about what's going on in the Millington life, one of our congregants, Amy Huber, who leads First Choice Women's Resource Center, is going to be going before the Supreme Court tomorrow. Tomorrow there will be the oral arguments. They're facing the Attorney General. The Attorney General has gone on a fishing expedition, and they are defending themselves based on their constitutional rights. And so this is, as she was telling us, a case that will have ramifications. Of course, it all depends on how the Supreme Court decides to settle it. Will they issue a broad, sweeping ruling, or is it going to be more narrow? My guess, based on this court and what they've done recently, is it's going to be hopefully a definitive win for crisis pregnancy centers across the country. So we're going to be praying to that end, that the cause of life advances and that God would move on the hearts of the justices. So that's coming up tomorrow. Be praying for First Choice for those oral arguments. We won't hear the answer until probably June, but tomorrow is the oral arguments, and that's an important day. All right, so that's one. This one here, here's a headline, Tim. AI drives Black Friday boom, but fuels phishing surge. So let me read these. Black Friday 2025 sees more than half of holiday shoppers using AI tools for price comparisons, product recommendations, and even automated transactions, with 85% of AI users trusting these systems to place orders and execute payments on their behalf. Wow. Now, let me ask you, I know you've been known to dabble in the ChatGPT world. Have you used ChatGPT to purchase things for you yet?
No. No, I've not. I typically can make my own decisions when it comes to the things.
This is true. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? AI, people outsourcing their thing. I can understand maybe the price comparisons. That is helpful. You know, if you're somebody who's marketing and selling now, you have to understand that there's tools that's going to compare prices to other people around you. That's a hard market now.
Yeah, I think price comparison is one thing. Like if you're gonna you can use it to kind of figure out, okay, this is what I'm buying from one product from where and seeing the different benefits. But I don't know. There's a lot of AI. It's just flying. It's just moving forward.
It's all over the place. It's just kind of taking over like the internet. Although I do think it requires some discernment in how you're using it. I think it's good for some things, but other things, I am just not comfortable with asking it to buy things for me. That doesn't seem right.
All of a sudden, you get your credit card bill back. Like, what?
Yeah, who are you going to blame then? Say, why did you do that? Well, I was just trying to please you with the purchases I made. Here's the third point on this. The surge in AI-assisted shopping has triggered a 620% spike in phishing scams and a 250% increase in fraudulent sites, with scammers using the same generative AI technology to create convincing fake emails and websites and impersonate major retailers like Amazon. Wow. By the way, have you noticed on your social media sites there's all these videos out there that are completely AI generated, but they look kind of real?
Yes.
I've seen all these things.
Growing a lot.
Right, well, okay, so the common one I see is like there's a lion who's somehow attacking a man. If it was a real lion, probably should have killed him, but yet the people were chasing him away. Or I can't see how many videos I've seen of somebody leaving their baby in the middle of their yard and a bear is sneaking up on them, and then all of a sudden they're running out to save the baby, which I don't know why you would ever do that to your kid. why AI thinks that's a funny video to make, but
I saw one recently where this guy was playing frisbee golf, and he threw a frisbee, and it was about to go into a hole-in-one, and this random little kid just pops up and starts running right in front of the frisbee, and they're like, stop! And he just stops right in front of the hole, and it goes in. It's ridiculous. But they are becoming very popular, not in a good way.
It's just like the new cat videos, right?
Joe Rogan has actually reported that he's had many times where he'll be on internet, social media, and there will be like an ad with him promoting something, and he said, I never recorded that is completely AI and completely fake.
Yeah, so I think one of the things I've heard people talk about recently is that the challenge with AI is going to be increasingly blurring the lines between reality and what's fake. How are you going to know what is true, what's not, to your Joe Rogan example? So it's going to require more discernment from Christians as they're engaging in these things in the public square, and really, really thinking through with wisdom how to use the tools in an appropriate way.
It's kind of crazy to me, the amount of AI stuff I'll see online, like the amount of videos. And I know it's like I've looked at enough video footage. As of now, I'm able to pick up and tell when things are not real. Obviously, this stuff is only getting better. But there are people I see in the comment section, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cute! I can't believe that this puppy did this." And I'm just like, "No, like it did not. No, this is not real."
But you think for a second, did that really happen? Why would
you do the double take?
Why would they do that?
You do the double take because your brain is like, "Oh, look at that," and then you start to see like the different telltale signs of it being AI, and you're like, "Oh,
watch out for deception out there." So those are a couple news stories that caught my eye this week. So stay tuned. We'll see what else we can come up with next week.
Hey friends, Christmas is a wonderful time of the year, but for some, it can be really hard. If this time of the year brings sadness, loss, or is just overall so overwhelming, we'd love to invite you to our Blue Christmas event on Wednesday, December 17th from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Blue Christmas will be a peaceful, reflective space filled with scripture, prayer, and music, reminding us all that God truly is close to the brokenhearted. If you or someone you love could use a moment of hope this holiday season, please join us on December 17th. For more information, check out our website at millingtonbaptist.org.
All right, so I think we're going to move on to the book war recap. That's what we have next here on our list, and so I'll turn it over to you, Tim. Do you have a winner from last week?
Yeah, I do have.
I forget. What did I recommend last week?
You recommended Accessible Church.
Oh, that's right. And Dave recommended some kind of old John Owen book, right?
Yeah, Dave recommended some old John Owen book. And I'll tell you what, I'm starting to get really suspicious of what's going on here. And I have another bone to pick with.
By the way, so will AI pick up Dave right here, and like all of a sudden Reese's Dave is going to be endorsing these books?
Potentially.
I know. What do you think about that, Dave? He's happy.
So a second bone to pick with our listeners. I hope you guys know that I see the votes, and some of you are voting twice. And I know this because you put your name down twice.
Voter fraud.
I see. We are
voting fraud. Wow.
We have voter fraud.
We're stuffing the ballot.
We have ballot stuffing in and amongst our own Behind the Pulpit fans. So I guess we've never said this. Please just vote once. I know some of you might want to vote for more than one book, but let's stick to voting to once.
I think we should go back to, as a punishment, we should go back to an older form of voting where we try to convince the two of you here.
You know, Noah and I were just talking about that. Believe it or not, we were saying
we take a hiatus from this.
We were saying it
we
might be best
purge the book. What would you call them? The book. I don't know.
Because there are definitely
fraudulent book voting.
Yes, there are definitely have been some books that Pastor Bob, I think.
You know what? People
should
they're
at
looking
least
at
have
us right
gotten a
now.
lot
They're
more
laughing
books.
at us. They're laughing at us right now. They're
And
saying,
Pastor
"You're on
Dave,
to me."
Pastor Dave, wherever he is typing in his group chat of voters that he pays off right now. It's like, thank you for another week. I'm now winning 7-2.
Do you know the names of the people that are voting, or is it possible that Dave made up a name and that he's voting for his own?
There is a list of voters that vote every week, and they put their name down for voter of the for try to get voter of the year.
Oh my goodness!
And I don't know. Statistically, it would appear that most of them vote for Pastor Dave. So I can't confirm.
Interesting.
But
well, I do have a recommendation in solidarity this week. Since it is Christmas time, I just picked up this nice little tome right here by it's edited by Nancy Guthrie, and you guys might find this very interesting. So it's called "Come Thou Long Expected Jesus," put out by Crossway, experiencing the peace and promise of Christmas. And it's not, she didn't write it, but she did curate articles from people like George Whitefield, Martin Luther, Tim Keller, John Piper, Martin Lloyd-Jones, Jonathan Edwards, Charles Spurgeon, J.I. Packer, Randy Alcorn, John MacArthur, Francis Schaeffer, R.C. Sproul, Johnny Erickson Tada. I'm going to be using this as a little Christmas devotional for myself this year. And so I encourage you to pick it up and let the peace and promise of Christmas rule your hearts, speaking of our sermon. So, "Come Thou Long Expected Jesus," edited by Nancy Guthrie. It's small, it's digestible, but I think you'll enjoy it. So there you go. That's my recommendation this week. Dave has nothing this week, but I'm sure he's down reading lots of books in his studies this week.
He is plotting more ways to pay off the voters.
All right, so we're not skipping the recommendation. That's mine. Don't bother voting, but go and buy it.
See, for all you people who don't vote for Pastor Bob out here, I tried to get him to skip the recommendation this week for the sake of time. He said, no, I will still recommend a book. That's how much it means to him.
I will say this, though. Even though I've not been winning the skirmishes, I do have people coming up to me and saying they're actually buying the books that I recommended, which I don't know if that's the same with Dave, because people might just be saying, I like that book, but they're not following through and purchasing it. So this is like hidden data.
What this is telling me...
Maybe I am winning on that front.
I think you are winning on that front because people are actually buying your books, but they are reaping some other reward from Pastor Dave because Pastor Dave is telling them, you vote for me and I will reward you in some other way. So
I also noticed people stuffing Dave's mailbox with Reese's. I think there might be, in addition to the fraudulent voting, maybe some bribery going on.
No, what do you think? There's something fishy going on here.
Yeah, not right. All right, so we should move on to the audience question now.
Yes,
we have a good audience question. Did you happen to put this on the screen?
I did.
Tim?
Let's switch gears and I will read it for us. This comes from someone. Thank you for asking. We encourage you guys to keep asking your questions. We love to answer them. This person asked, peace comes only with surrender. Why am I still fighting and not surrendering? I am having a very difficult time surrendering my 2 adult sons. I need help. What can I do?
Well, this is a great question. I noticed this before when you sent it, and I think it's a very honest question. So thank you for asking that. I think one of the points we talked about in the message was the idea that all of us, regardless our maturity in the faith, have something where we're holding on to, and part of growing in sanctification, growing in Christ likeness, growing and pursuing Him is learning how to let go of different things in our lives and give them ultimately over to Him and trusting Him with them. And that's a lifelong process. That's not something that happens overnight. And I will say there are certain things that are harder to let go of than others. So, perhaps to use the Dave illustration over here with the Reese's, you might get to a point in your age where, sugar affects you negatively, and you can easily, even if you've been holding tight onto that, you can easily let it go because you realize the benefits. When it comes to family, this is probably one of the hardest things to wrestle with as a parent and as a Christian. And I don't know who wrote this in and why they are what's behind the question. They're having a difficult time surrendering their 2 adult sons. My gut assumption is that perhaps the adult sons are wrestling with their faith. They're on their own, and this parent, whoever is writing in, is really wanting them to change their hearts and move into a different direction of pursuing Christ. Maybe that's not the case. I suppose it could also be, it's just really hard to understand how to have an adult relationship with your kids. Both of those things are very challenging, and we have a lot of folks in our congregation who wrestle with prodigal kids. I think we've spoken about that, Dave and I, on the podcast before, and that is a really painful thing to walk through. And I imagine if this is you writing this in, you are not alone if that is indeed the case in your life. So your question, why am I fighting and not surrendering? Well, it's a good desire. It's a good desire to want your kids to follow the Lord. It's a good desire to want to have a relationship with your kids. There is a paternal and maternal instinct, I think, that God gives us to want to love and care for our kids in a very positive way. And so it's not easy to just kind of let go of that and give it over to the Lord. And yet, yesterday we had a baby dedication, and one of the reasons we do baby dedications is that parents are committing to raise their kids to know and love Christ. It's a sacred duty, a sacred calling that God gives to parents. You have a connection with your kids in a way that you don't with really anybody else. They are, assuming you could have biological kids, they are literally your flesh and blood, right? So I think that's why it's so difficult to surrender. What can you do about it? I've come more and more to the point of saying to people, when it comes to witnessing and sharing your faith with Christ, faith with your faith in Christ with others, I should say, that you can pull out the best arguments. You can pray as hard as you can. You can keep pursuing them and pursuing them and pursuing them, and those are all good things. Those are all things you should do. But at the end of the day, it really is God, through the power of His Spirit, that moves on people's hearts and pulls them to Christ. And I think at some level, and this may feel counterintuitive for you, you have to sort of come to the end of your rope and say, Lord, I cannot do this without you. I am giving this situation, this relationship, these people that I love deeply and dearly over to you, and trusting that you are going to work in their hearts. And at that point, you're actually unleashing the power of God, because you're recognizing that you can't do it on your own. And it's funny because when you talk about people coming to faith, and we were talking about this in the message yesterday, the whole idea of surrendering ourselves to Christ, confessing our sin and giving our lives to Him. The same is true with other things in our lives, whether that's kids or a financial situation or some other goals that you might have. You have to release them to the Lord and trust that He is going to do His work in their lives or in that situation. So my encouragement to you is to continue to pray, and maybe you are praying, maybe you're not. Pray even more. Get even more into the presence of the Lord, and ask for Him to bring heaven to earth and move in the lives of those that you love and you care about. I think that's what I found to be true in my own life, and I pray that would be true in your life as well. So that's my answer to that one, but that's a great question, and I imagine, again, there's a lot of people that are wrestling with that at some level. Did you guys add anything? Any thoughts?
I have nothing to add, no.
Nothing to add.
All right. I'll take it.
Hey guys, we are officially in the month of December, so you know what that means. Christmas Eve is just around the corner. So that means it's time for you to take note of our Christmas Eve services that we are having here at Millington Baptist Church. We're going to have 3 services spread out over 2 days, and they will all be identical. The first will be on the 23rd, so Christmas Eve, and that will be a 7 p.m. service. And then on Christmas Eve itself, the 24th, we will be having 2 services, one at 4 and one at 6. Like I said before, all 3 of these services will be identical, same worship set, same message, and same candle light ending with Silent Night. So make sure you mark your calendars, take note of those times and those dates. We can't wait to see you there. And also want to encourage you guys to invite a friend. I think that Christmas Eve is the best service of the year to invite someone that doesn't really go to church that much. So whether that's a friend, a neighbor, or someone in your family, why don't you use this Christmas Eve as a way to evangelize to those closest around you? So that's December 23rd, Christmas Eve at 7 p.m., and then Christmas Eve the 24th at 4 and 6, and we will see you there.
Okay, so sermon recap. I kind of started to get into that. So why don't we? Why don't I give a quick review of that, and then if Tim or Noah, you guys got some questions, we can chat about that. Look at that, man! Tim always capture me with that like that discerning look right there. Like, all right, here it comes.
Look like very discerning, Pastor Bob.
Like we mean business right here.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the price of peace. That was the message from yesterday. One of the most famous passages in Isaiah 52 verse 13 to 53 verse 12. The song of the suffering servant, the 4th in the collection of servant songs that are found in Isaiah 42 through 53. And as I mentioned last week, I didn't talk about this again in the sermon, but some people include Isaiah 61, 1-3 as a 5th servant song, although traditionally that's not included, but I can see where people make that argument. So we talked in here, and we set up the tension of why don't we accept peace deals when they're offered in life? And God ultimately is offering us the best peace deal in the world by sending his son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross to make peace with us and him. And as I noted, if you read through the entirety of the Bible, even if you read through the entirety of Isaiah, at the beginning of the book, the people of Israel are in open rebellion against God. They continually turn away from him, and that leads to ruin and judgment and exile. And then the second half of Isaiah, we start to see these echoes, these glimpses of redemption coming in. We start to hear about this servant who's coming. Of course, we believe that the servant is pointing to the Messiah, Jesus Christ, who comes hundreds of years in the future of when Isaiah wrote his book, his scroll. So how do we get peace? Why is peace so elusive? And we saw in this song, there's three scenes that show us what this suffering servant does in order to earn peace for us. The first one was he gets an ugly rejection. Number 2, he experiences a painful piercing. And then finally, because of that, we are privy to a great exchange, where Jesus on the cross took on all of our sin, all of our sorrow, all of our grief, and he gives us his righteousness, so that when we go before God, as we enter into heaven, he doesn't see us; he sees his Son. We are. The theologians say we are united with Christ. We experience union with him. It's an imputed righteousness, which Paul fleshes out further in the book of Romans. And so we looked at that pretty well in depth. We had a few examples, but I imagine it's something that really touches people's hearts, because a lot of people are asking the question, how do I get peace, even if they're not necessarily asking it that way. Something is wrong with the world. How do I get right? Why do I feel like I'm at war with this spiritual being? If you're not a Christian, you might say that. Why are things just not right between me and him? And Isaiah 53 offers the answer of how indeed to get right, and that is to surrender your life, to stop fighting, lay down your arms, and receive him. So that's a general overview of the message. Do you guys have some questions you'd like to banter around about?
No, do you have any questions?
Tim, do you have any questions?
I do, actually. You mentioned, you kind of mentioned this idea of how sometimes we'd want peace on our terms and sometimes we might negotiate. I think you had a quote was, peace comes through surrender, not negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you think we tend to negotiate with God rather than just surrendering to him?
Yeah, that was, even for me, as I was thinking about that this week, that was I think a pretty profound point that I think we find in Isaiah. I use the used car illustration. So I've bought a number of used cars in my life, and whenever I go in to buy a car, it's never my most exciting moment, but I research that thing to death. I want to see if that car is actually worth that. Is that the real price of it? And I'll go in and I'll try to talk them down. Well, you want this much? How about I give this much? Because I always sense there's some kind of, they're trying to get something from me. They're trying to get more money from me. That used car sales guy. I always assume they have more margin, and they're not really giving me a good deal. And so I'm trying to talk them down. And I think there is a sense in our sinful nature from the very beginning. And this is really what the serpent did to Adam and Eve. Did God really say, is God holding something back from you? If you eat this fruit, you'll be like God. God has a better deal for you, is what he's kind of saying. So if you eat the fruit, you'll be like him. You'll get all his knowledge. The serpent is trying to turn Adam and Eve, humanity, against God. And of course, he succeeded in the sense that they bit the apple. And now we're dealing with the ramifications. But the echo of that now is that every time we come to the God, if something happens in my life, the death of a loved one, if you lose a parent, I lost my parent when I was young, if you have a dream of where you think that your life should go and it doesn't happen, there's a tendency to think, well, God has it out for me, or God's holding back. You might think I did all the things right. I checked off all the boxes by being a good person or giving a certain amount of money or volunteering. I go out and I serve with City Relief. I helped buy, I gave 500 hygiene kits for this thing we got coming up. God owes me something. And that is a tendency to think that we have done all these things. Now God owes us. And what Scripture says, and I think in particular here in Isaiah is getting at, is that we don't have any leverage. We had a debt that we could not pay, and God paid it for us. So we have no leverage. God owns it all. God owns your life, and that is so counterintuitive to the human condition. And so we always default back to that sinful nature, and that's what we have to fight against if we're going to really move into a fully surrendered relationship to Him. How's that? That answer your question, or
Yeah, I think that answers.
Bring out a follow-up question.
No, I don't think I have any follow-up questions. Are you looking for me to ask another question?
You can ask another question. I was just wanting to make sure I answered that question that you gave me right there.
Okay, this is a kind of a bit of a theology sprint. So Noah, stop me if this is the one you asked. But you also mentioned the argument of the divine child abuse when it comes to Jesus dying on the cross for our sins. You want to unpack that, what people mean when they say that, and why it's incorrect?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is often a argument that's used by people that are more progressive-leaning Christians, that they think that the idea of what's called penal substitutionary atonement. So it is something that's just it's I'm trying to think of the right word. It's offensive. It's something that we just can't lean into. So. That's typically what a progressive would say. Now, what they mean by that is God chose to send His Son and basically abuse Him. He got lashed, He got whipped, He got sent to a cross, He died. And how can we then say that God is a good Father if He sent His Son to do that? So I think the reason that argument misses the point is perhaps to some extent a misunderstanding of the Trinity. Right, so and if you go and read any of the creeds, we were talking about the creeds a few weeks ago, that there's an emphasis on the fact that every person in the Godhead, in the Trinity, is equally God, but also serves a different role. And so God the Son agrees to go and die in our place. Like he willingly goes and does that as part of the Father's mission. And so he's willingly knowing that because God is angry against sin, that God's wrath must come against sin. He knows that's the mission in order to save us. So I'll revisit this quote that the commentator John Oswald says, and I think he makes it pretty clear here that this is why the sacrifice was required, that penalty must be paid for sin. So he explains that when you have rebellion, and that's we're in rebellion against God, it disrupts relationship, it offends justice, it leaves life out of balance, and then you have to ask yourself, well, how do we restore order? It's only when there's an appropriate sacrifice, and this is rooted in that sacrificial system of the Old Testament, and the authority of God is acknowledged, can you really have peace? And so this is his quote. He says, "This is what the servant has done for us. This is not a matter of a raging tyrant who demands violence on someone to satisfy his fury." And this is what these more progressive-leaning scholars will say, that God is just, he's just angry, he's just mean, he's doing violence to satisfy his bloodlust, right? His pound of flesh. But Oswald continues, "It is a God who wants a whole relationship with his people, but is prevented from having it until incomplete justice is satisfied. In the servant, he's found a way to gratify his love and satisfy his justice." So when it comes to the cross, God is both, and there's a famous song by Jeremy Riddle. God showed that he's both love and he's loving and he's full of justice. Jesus satisfied both of those things, and that was required for us to be in right relationship with him. So I think they missed the point.
All right. I'll ask one more that I think you might be able to answer quickly before we wrap up with our Theology Sprint. You talked a little bit about beauty, and you mentioned how as a society, our culture really values physical beauty. But the servant said that the servant had no beauty that we should desire him. So how does that change how we should think about beauty and the beauty that we may not necessarily be, the beauty we might be missing because we're looking for the wrong kind of beauty potentially?
Yeah, I think because we live in such an image-driven culture now, and we were talking about a show before, but in time in the past when reading was more of a the medium that people went to, there was a way of engaging with that caused you to imagine things. But now, who are the people that are put out in front of you on magazine covers as the leading person in the movie or the show or whatever, the pop culture singers? They're all people that have a certain type of bone structure, and if you want to fit in, you have to wear a certain thing, you have to look a certain way, you have to if you look ordinary, you need to get a makeover, right? If you want to be on TV or be in front of a camera. So I think our culture has conditioned us to think that is what beauty is. And I mentioned that in the Isaiah passage, the no beauty, the word that's used there, the Hebrew word, is the same one that's used of Rachel, Jacob's one of his wives in Genesis chapter 29. He found her to be beautiful. It's the same word that's used, except she was considered physically beautiful. But here it's the same word that's used for the servant, and it's saying that he has no beauty. Now we had a little bit of a discussion about this during our run through. I originally used the word ugly, and I think more correctly is that it was that he was ordinary, not necessarily that he was ugly, but he was nothing to write home about, right? He was, maybe he wasn't hideous, but he wasn't like You just look at that person and say, wow, that person's beautiful. So the point I was making, though, is that when it comes to beauty, and if there's something that captures your attention, that whatever you consider to be beautiful is what's going to capture your attention in a way that you reorder your life and your schedule around that. I use the illustration of my wife. But beauty runs a whole lot deeper than physical appearances. And it's hard for people to wrap their mind around that in our world today because, again, we're so conditioned to think that person that I want to marry, that person I want to be with has to look this way or that way. And we don't go beyond the surface, because you might have somebody that has character traits that are indeed beautiful and godly, and you miss it because you're only looking at their profile picture on the dating app or the social media site. So my point is, I think we have to recondition ourselves. And when it comes to Jesus, he gives a lot of countercultural messages. The whole idea of surrendering to find peace, that's a countercultural message. But when you reorder your heart, when you reorder your loves to find Jesus to be the most beautiful thing in the world and in your life, then that's going to bring you peace, because nothing else matters, and he's always going to be there. And in reality, I think that's part of the journey of sanctification, is learning how to reorder your heart so that you find Christ to be the most beautiful thing in life. And then you will always be satisfied, because he's always going to be there.
Great.
All righty. Is that good?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right. So this upcoming week, James Rickershauser is going to talk about Isaiah 55, so you don't want to miss that. He's going to be in the pulpit. Maybe we can see if we can get him on an episode next week.
We'll have to try to get him on the show.
See if he can zoom in or something. All right, you guys got a sprint for me? I got
time
4
for a
minutes
sprint.
here. I got 4 minutes.
What do you got?
All right. This is a little bit heavier of one, so I want to buckle up, but I think it's a good one. So the question is, were the actions of Hitler and the Nazis in the Holocaust and World War II attributed to pure human evil, or was there a satanic/demonic influence working in those actions?
Well, that escalated quickly.
Theology Sprint.
I think I started off with Stranger Things right there. Actually, I was listening to a commentary about this kind of creation of that Vecna character in Stranger Things, and how they thought that was a way of channeling and giving face to evil, but really maybe it's the whole upside down. That's this evil dimension. And maybe that's an interesting illustration for your question. So I do think there's a both and with this, and that's just off the cuff. That's my opinion about that. Humans. Well, actually, let me put it this way. So people typically talk about the fact that we have three enemies. We have the world, the flesh, and the devil. So our flesh, being our human sinful nature, is something that the devil can inflame inside of us, especially if we're not Christians, which I don't think Hitler, of course, was a Christian. But the devil used that. He whirls it up, because the world's system, the world's speaking of our thing about beauty, the world is giving us messages that is in many ways anti-God, and those things get embedded within our hearts, and then the devil uses that to inflame us and to play our heartstrings. I mean, there's different examples of that within the passage in 1 Peter verse 5. I think that's how the language is used there. So we have a sin nature that we have to fight against only if we're Christians. If you're not a Christian, you're not going to fight against that. And so the world's system, the world's messages are going to get embedded in your heart, and then the devil is going to use that to play your heartstrings, so to speak, if that's a helpful illustration. So when it comes to Hitler, I think that his sinful nature for power, for lust, for greed was there. That's an enticing thing that people have a hard time fighting against. But was there some kind of demonic, satanic thing there? I mean, he did awful things, and so I have a hard time believing that there wasn't some kind of force that was inflaming his lust for power and for murder and everything else that he did. So I think it's a both and. and that led to, of course, one of the most horrific events in human history. So that's why we need to be people who bring God's kingdom into earth, to push back the darkness, bring in the light, and see as many people come to Christ as we can, so that they can fight against sin and evil.
All right.
How's that?
Very good.
Good. All right. See what you can do with that. It's probably more than 60 seconds. All righty. Well, I think we're at the end here. Tim, can I turn it back over to you?
I guess so. But before you do that, Pastor Bob, where's your coffee from?
Coffee is from Barrister.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. I swung by. I grabbed it. Here we go. Sponsor, is that... well, I guess we can't say they're a sponsor of the show.
Well,
Here it is.
do you know where you could get some Barrister coffee?
Where could I get some Barrister coffee, Tim?
At the City Relief packing party
Ooh,
on
all right.
December the 20th.
All right, there we go.
So
Making me want to go.
that's it. Let's close out the episode, Pastor Bob.
All right. Come to the City Relief packing party. Come hear James preach next week. Dave will be back in 2 weeks. And thanks for joining us on Behind the Pulpit.